As my next guest wrote in a recent op-ed, the survivalist community is often perceived as a bunch of gloom and doom types sitting on a pile of MREs, ammunition, and guns in some far-out corner of the Northwest. To separate fact from fiction, his name is Jack Spirko, and he's the face of the modern survivalist movement, a realist representing individuals who rely on themselves rather than the government. Why survivalism? Why now? What are survivalists worried about, Jack?
The big thing that they're worried about right now is any individual event that will come forward and eventually shut down systems of support. I think in the past, survivalists have been viewed as people that maybe prepare for a specific event. Way back, we're talking Y2K, people were waiting for the computers to go nuts or what have you. Today, there's a lot of people concerned about, obviously, the economy, obviously about the potential for a pandemic, the government's response or over-response to the current pandemic threat. But what people are beginning to understand is you don't really prepare for an event, because if you prepare for a specific event to happen, and it comes and it goes, right, danger hasn't left us. We haven't come to a point where we're no longer dependent upon systems of support, but that one thing you were focused on went away. So today it's more about being prepared for whatever could happen, be it a job loss, loss of an individual, something mundane, or, you know, the big Hollywood disaster, a major pandemic.
All right. Is the image of survivalists, as I said in the introduction, people on a mountaintop or in a desert or on a farm of a couple of hundred acres in a bunker or what we used to call a fallout shelter with MREs, meals ready to eat? Or can you be a survivalist in the suburbs or even in a city in America today?
Absolutely, and many people are doing it. It's really about, first you sit back and assess the situation and say to yourself, what are the things that I have become reliant upon that are just assumed to be there on a daily basis? And start building a plan to take up for each one of those going downhill. Food storage is an excellent example of one of the things that a lot of people do. But what they think of is they think of a guy with this basement full of food to the roof or what have you. Well, a lot of people in suburbia don't have a basement or don't have a big room like that. But what they do is they practice what we call eat what you store and store what you eat. So all they do is look at their pantry and say, what do I eat every day? And the stuff that they eat every day that's storable, you simply continue to have more and more of that until you build up some portion, maybe for some people 30 days, maybe some people 90 days worth of reserved food.
Debt.
Debt's got to go.
Cash, money, ability to spend money if the banking system breaks down. What advice do you give?
Number one, you got to get to be debt-free. I'm so glad you asked me that question. Every time I do a media contact and I bring up debt when I talk about survivalism, I immediately kind of get that pushed to the side. Because
no. I think debt may be just as important as food.
It's the most important thing in the world right now. If you're going to, follow my foundational principle, which is you should be doing things today to prepare for disaster that help you out. If nothing goes wrong at all, they should still make your life better. That's the foundational principle of modern survivalism. Nothing could be more in the case of that than debt right now. The person that's debt-free when they lose a job, it's a hell of a lot less of an event for them than the person that's mired in debt, 2 weeks from poverty, one paycheck away from being thrown out of their house. And we've seen that happen to so many people right now. Right now, we could have people that would be celebrating job losses, believe it or not, if people just practice being debt-free.
Firearms.
Firearms.
City of New York, virtually impossible to own, literally impossible to carry. Where do you want them, and God forbid, what do you need them for?
Well, if I had my choice, I would be walking through the streets of New York right now. Obviously, I can't do that.
Right.
I would carry
because the locals
law won't let me.
Don't care about creating victims.
Correct.
They just care about government power.
Correct.
When I say locals, I mean the authorities, the people that run the government of the city of New York.
Well, they want you to be dependent upon them. See, the thing is, when you walk around and you're armed, well, now you're not dependent on somebody else. I don't have to dial a cop and wait, even if, the guy's around the corner, 90 seconds for him to show up while I'm being victimized. I have the ability to turn that back around immediately. If you do that, and that's what this is really all about, and that's why I think there's a negative stigma around survivalism from the government, is if you're independent, I don't require government. Now, if I don't require government, everything else that you talk about on your show every day just takes over for itself, right? Because I don't need you, so I'm not going to make a deal with you. As crazy as it sounds, this is a perfect example. Why are investors putting money in Ford? They didn't make the deal with the devil. They didn't take the government's money. They're not accountable to them.
Working people, hardworking Americans that are the backbone of this country, just a couple of things that they should be doing. What would you tell them to do if they emailed you this afternoon?
Number one, make sure that you pay off debt. You've got to do that.
Right.
Pay it down, get rid of it. Number two, make sure that you take the time to document what you're going to do if something goes wrong. If somebody shows up on your door, knock, 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 and says you got to go now because of a weather event or any other type of event, know where you're going to go. 3 ways to get there, 3 places that you're going to go. Have the maps printed out, contact information for all your family, every bit of that in a documentation package. Keep it in your car. And last but not least, make sure you tune into the survivalpodcast.com where I do my show.
And if somebody shows up from the government, know that you don't have to talk to them. If they have a needle that they want to stick in your arm, know that you can close the door.
You know what? I'm not getting that shot. No way, no how. I think some of maybe the kind of fringe have gone a little bit farther than what they, what's going to actually. I don't think they're going to do that, but if they do, it ain't happening.
You can catch today's show on foxnews.com/freedomwatch and on Sirius 145, XM 168, or online at foxnewstalk.com at 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. Until the next time, stay free.